Alright, so today we have a PS4, and I cannot remember what the defect the seller said. Oftentimes I don't even pay attention. I just look, and if it's cheap I buy it. So we'll give it a test. I've got power hooked up, and I've got my HDMI cable to the capture card plugged in, and so we will press the eject button. I don't feel anything on the eject button. Oh wait. What in the world? Okay, so that disk drive does not sound good. Let's switch over and see if we're getting video. We did go white light on the console, so to get this thing into safe mode, if I hold this, why does it not beep or anything? That threw me off at first. Alright, so it turned off. Alright, so if I hold in the power button, let's plug in our controller. Alright, that's done. So basically, as you saw in the previous segment, it booted up and it needed a passcode, so I elected to boot it up into safe mode, and then go ahead and reinitialize the console from scratch, and that's what you see me doing here. But the problem is at the end of it, the console overheated, and that's when I figured out that it had a problem overheating. I think what we need to do is to disassemble this, check to see if the fans are clogged, change the thermal paste, wash all the plastics, and give the disk drive a makeover. See if we can fix this. Alright, so I'll be back when I have all this disassembled. So you can see somebody has been in this console before. Alright, I found my first roach. Kind of gross. Alright, so I think I got to the root cause of why the console was overheating. As you can see, there's no thermal paste. Anyhow, we'll fix that. And that's what the fan looks like. Alright, everything's taken apart. I'm going to go wash this and let it dry in the sun. So I'll be back so we can look at that disk drive. Alright, everything is out there drying. So now we are going to tackle the disk drive. So I'm going to inspect it for damage. And that's not the correct screwdriver. I don't think this is the correct screwdriver either, but it is working. Alright. So this thing definitely needs to be cleaned. So I think I'm going to wash this too. I think I'm just going to wash it with some soap and water. Sometimes getting this felt clean is kind of difficult. It's the only reason why I don't want to wash it is because I don't want to mess up the felt here, you know. But I'm going to wash it because I don't feel like scrubbing all that with a Q-tip. So let's take this piece out. It just pops up. We can clean those with Q-tips. Let's take this out. That'll get cleaned with a Q-tip. All right, let's disassemble the back of this. Yeah, so I think I'm going to put all those right there. Another one here. Another one here. Another one here. All right, so that's what that looks like. So that'll get washed. Got another roach trapped in here. Getting tired of roach cleaning, man. Alright, so let's pop this up. Let's take this out, like so. Let's take this out, like so. Let's take this out, like so. So the board, so let's unplug this. So this is the board. And it looks all right. Can need a little dust down. Okay. Set that to the side. Do we have any more screws? So I've got to pull this up. Actually, I'm going to have to pull this off. How does this come out of there, dude? Okay. All right. So this can get washed. So we have the cog. I had one that was missing this cog right here, but it looks like everything's in there. So let's take this off. Let's take that off. This pops out. We can leave that in there. Now I need to remove these two small screws. And we can remove this motor. Uh-oh. What's this? Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Down in here? Maybe? I'll have to watch the video back and see where that goes. I hope I don't forget about it. Let's take the laser assembly out. Like so. And then let's remove this motor. A little clip that holds it in right here. Need to push that back, and pull up on the board, just like that. And then finagle this out of here. Okay, so this is out. Okay, that's good. So I think that, is it possible to get this piece out? So there's a spring right in there. So if I take this spring off, how does this come out of here? Like that. So that whole assembly comes out of there. So let me film this so I'll remember how to do it later. Okay, so that's there. Let's put that there. So I don't think there are any more electrical parts in this, so I'm going to take this outside and I'm going to wash all of this in Dawn dish soap to remove all of the dust and debris. So I will be back. Alright, so everything's clean. I am going to put this back together, and the problem is I don't see any I don't see anything wrong with this disk drive. I mean, every part is there. Everything moves freely. Unless, of course, one of these switches is. So how do you measure these switches? Is it like this? So that's a short. I don't think I'm actually touching. Okay. All right, so it's open. Shorted. So that one's good. All right, so that's open. And it's shorted. So yeah, all those switches are good. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the disk drive. It was almost like it thought it had a disk in there or something. I don't know. We will, now that we've cleaned it, we'll put it back together. Alright, it's all back together. So I'm going to put it completely back together, and then we are going to test it and see if we can get it to work. Alright, console is roach free. It has thermal paste. Everything has been cleaned. So let's turn it on. Still no beep. And that disk drive is still doing its thing. Let's switch over.
So after I turned it on, I booted it back up and logged in and completed the setup, and the Wi-Fi wouldn't work. It kept giving me an error code. And so and it was about this time that the console crashed a second time due to overheating. And then I finally realized, you know what? You might want to look more into the overheating problems that you are having. So,
alright, I figured out what the problem was, why it was overheating. It's the fan. I didn't even notice it when I was trying to clean it. It is really super. It tries to spin, but it's I just don't know if you can take these fans apart or not. I don't know if like this pops off and there's screws, or I don't know. So I'm gonna have to get another fan. I'll be back when I do. Alright, I put a new fan from another PS4 I had waiting to repair. So we are gonna cut it back on and try to. Oh, I just heard the beep this time.
I just heard the beep. Let's make sure the fan's spinning. You can see that it is. That's good. Alright, it's white light. Let's switch over to the...
So I began to go through the system setup, and once I got in here, I started checking the Wi-Fi again, and the Wi-Fi continued to give me that error that it was giving me, and so I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up initializing the console a second time, because what had happened initially was, in the process of putting in the Wi-Fi password, the system shut down because it overheated. So as you can see, I'm going through and reinitializing the console, and then once I get in here, I'm able to input the Wi-Fi network and password, and it allowed me to join my home network here. And then after that, everything worked fine. So we'll pick up with the next thing I'm trying to figure out is the disk drive.
So this is where we're at. All that. Okay. Maybe it thought it had a disk in there. Alright, dude. So, I gotta figure that out. I gotta figure it out. Let me do some digging and I'll be back.
So I pulled the board, the disk drive board out, and I looked at it under the microscope. I gave it a real close inspection. I checked every single fuse that is associated, just like in the last video I did with the PS4. I was worried that the Renesas was going to be the issue again, but I cleaned it up and decided to put it back together. I checked all the fuses, they were good, and put it back in to see how it would do.
Alright, so let me tell you where I'm at with this thing. So I went through and I checked every fuse on the board, and all fuses were good. So I decided to take the disk drive out of the one I took the fan out of to see if any difference would be made. So I put that in there, and I promptly ejected this disk out of it, which is good, and it does in fact read games. So that tells me that something is wrong, obviously, with that other disk drive. So I'm thinking that the problem with it, because there's only one electrical component on that, or inside of a disk drive, and that's the motor that takes the disk in and spits it back out. So what I'm going to do is I am going to find that other disk drive. I don't know exactly where it's at. So my thought process is to find that. Oh, here it is. I found it. It's this one right here. Because as far as I can tell, everything looks good inside that thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the motor that I have to disassemble all this again, take the motor out, this motor right here, and put in the motor I have from another one, and hope that it's the same board, and hopefully it will work, and hopefully the disc, the laser is good. So anyhow, I'm rambling, but that's the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out, and then we will put it back together and see if it works. So I'll be back when I have that done. I changed out the motor. This is the old motor. I also ohmed out the ribbon cable, this ribbon cable, and it was good. So
That rules out the ribbon cable. So I'm hoping this ribbon cable is probably okay. I hope the motor that I put in here from a parts and repair one I bought just to have spare parts, I hope it's okay. And so we will go ahead and fire the console up. See if we can do it with a disc. Dudes, it was the motor. As you can see, let's go to the, let's see if it reads the disc. Yep, it took a disc in just fine. Alright, I don't feel like updating right now, but I will later. So yeah, so the problems with this console, where it was overheating, well, first of all, it had a bunch of roaches inside it, which is gross, but that's neither here nor there. So every part has been cleaned, power supply, everything has been cleaned. Second issue was it was overheating because the fan, this fan right here, is jammed up for whatever reason, and it didn't have any thermal paste on it. So we fixed that by putting a new fan in. And then the third issue was that when you would start the console, the disk drive would make an obnoxious noise, and it would not take in discs or put out discs. So we replaced the motor, the drive motor, we replaced that, and that has now fixed this console, so it is fully functional. So I'm going to put it completely back together, and yeah, and this will be a done video, so I'll be back when it is together. This is so scratched up, man. I cannot take it. I cannot take it looking like that. You know? I think I'm going to try to buff it. So I'll go buff it, and then we'll see what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, I buffed it. It looks way better than it did. I mean, it's not perfect, but it looks way better than it did. So, go ahead and put that back on there. Just make sure it still works. Oh, and the other problem we have with this thing is it didn't have a beep either. It didn't make a beep when I initially tried to cut it on. So let's go switch over. Disk drive doesn't make that horrible noise anymore. So let's go into user 1. I'm going to use the game that I got for free, which is a baseball game. Let's see if it'll. And it does read it, and it's installing the game. So everything on this console works now. Everything. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, disk drive. It's not overheating. So it looks like we're in business. So yeah, so this is another good fix. It wasn't super complex, but it was challenging in the sense that I didn't pay attention to the fan when I initially turned it on. I just assumed the fan was spinning, and then later on I figured out that it was not the fan at all, or the fan wasn't spinning at all. So yeah, two problems: fan, disk drive motor, and roach infestation. All three have been taken care of, and this console works, and it's nice and quiet. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So I'll be selling this on for somebody to use. Yeah, so anyhow, I appreciate you guys watching. And my next one will most likely be a PS4, because I've got it torn apart already to rob parts to fix this one. So
We'll fix that one next. All right, y'all be good.